my name is Andrea, and this is High Literature, a program where I introduce books and stories and comic books and art to you, the viewer. In the last video, I was getting ready to start reading Electra Lives Again by Frank Miller, color art by Lynn Varley. And this was something that I first became aware of when I was a child, when it first came out in 1990. So that put me at 7 years old, and the cover was just so striking, and I was so curious about what was inside, but I couldn't read it because it was sealed. So I found this on eBay. eBay is wonderful, and finally got to read it after all these years. And guess what? It's a good thing it was sealed, because this is actually a very graphic, violent story, not suitable for children. And honestly, as an adult, it wasn't my favorite simply because it was so just sad and not a feel-good story. Electra Lives Again, yes, but not for long. Frank Miller has a really long, sad history with this character, apparently involving some kind of deal that he signed with Marvel promising never to use the character, but then they broke their promise and used the character anyway. And that's why this is published under Epic Comics and not Marvel Comics. Frank Miller was that angry, and rightly so. And he made this story it was his way of killing off the character for good. So she comes back to life after tormenting Matt Murdock, the Daredevil character, via his dreams, because he misses her from when she died the first time around. And she comes back, doesn't live long, and she dies again. And the whole story, it's written well, the art is fantastic, but it's really sad. I read it a couple times just to make sure I absorbed everything, and came out of it with the same reaction both times. Appreciated the art, appreciated the story for what it was, but not something that I would go out of my way to reread over and over again, because the content is so sad. But look at this art. I love this. I just think it's so beautiful. And as I was going through this, I'm looking at the art, and it was reminding me of art in different comics that I had seen, one of which I will show you. But isn't that cool looking? I think that's so neat. And there's this one image in particular. Let's see here. It's in a church, and it's just beautiful. Look at that. Look at the detail. How cool is that? And it was this picture in particular that reminded me of artwork that I saw in another comic book that I really like. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. How about that? The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were characters created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, and this is actually a compilation of several stories by several artists. Let's see. Richard Corbin is a familiar name. And then we have Jim Lawson, Justin Norman. Looks like Kevin Eastman does the art and story for does the artwork and the writing for the story. And I don't know about you, but this reminds me of the Frank Miller story that we were just looking at. This story, I love this story. This is a story about the first time Raphael and Casey Jones meet for the first time. There's Casey with his hockey ski mask, and he and Raphael, just like in the movie, they throw down and they get into a big old fight, but then they end up teaming up later to attack some actual bad guys who are wreaking havoc on the city. And I just love that this is the first story in this compilation, Raphael and Casey Jones meeting at the same time. I loved Raphael, still do. Loved Casey Jones, still do. Loved all the Turtles, still do. And April O'Neil. I don't know what that makes me except happy. So good. Let's see, another story in here. This is a good example of comic book art that isn't colored. It's in black and white, and it's just as great looking. Love it. So good. All the stories are great. Let's see here. This is a turtle story with the art by Richard Corbin. His art is really easy to pick out. It's definitely has a particular style to it. He is in a lot of heavy metal stuff. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. I actually thought for the longest time that they were the ones who created Heavy Metal Magazine. They are not, but we'll get to that in a minute. The Turtles, golly, when did they start? They definitely started sometime in the 80s, but what year particularly, I couldn't say. This is a foreword by Kevin Eastman in 2009. But these are all stories I am pretty confident in saying that are from prior, that they just assembled together in this book. But if you can get your hands on this particular compilation, I highly recommend it. Here's another black and white turtle story. This is my favorite picture of Casey Jones ever. Look at that. He looks so cool. And April O'Neil is actually in this one. Let's see if I can find a good picture of April. There she is, talking on the phone. Yeah, I really love this art. It's awesome. I love art when it's colored, but boy, when you can find stuff that's not in color that looks just as good, that looks so good that you don't want it to be colored, that's something special, I must say. Golly, look at that. That just looks so cool. Don't you want to know what every single word in every single panel says? Ooh, here's more Richard Corbin. I think Richard, there are a couple of Richard Corbin stories in here, and the last one in here is by him. Yeah, Richard Corbin, his art, honestly, used to stress me out when I was a kid. It's grown on me more over the years, but you can see there's something about it that's, I don't know about you, but it stressed me out. Be nice. My cats are harassing each other. So, the Turtles. They've been around forever. They've been around for so long that they've been in so many crossovers. My favorite crossover that I'm about to show you. I haven't looked at this in so long. Who remembers this? Gen 13. Gen 13 came out sometime in the 90s, and it was basically, I think it started with Wildstorm Comics, and then they moved over to Image Comics. I think Image to Wildstorm was the same thing that DC was to Dark Horse. It was like kind of an offshoot of the same company, but oh my God, look at the back. Monkey Man and O'Brien. Anybody read these? These are a lot of fun. But Gen 13, it was like the Image answer to Marvel's X-Men. They're a group of teenagers, and they suddenly have these powers that they, it's just high drama, and then they have this like older mentor, leader person, Professor X kind of character. And it was a hit. It was very successful, and boy, Gen 13, they had crossovers all over the place. This is issue 13B. There's a 13A and a 13C. I have never seen these. I've only seen this one. So I went to eBay and I ordered 13A and 13C, and I will be sharing those once I get those in the mail. But 13B, let's go over first. So right off the rip, here we see the Turtles. And it turns out that they have been consumed by consumer products. There's turtle underwear, there's turtle action figure, there's a turtle Pez dispenser. Look at that Ninja Turtles Nintendo game cartridge. Oh my God, how funny is that? Can you see that? I don't have my glasses on because I don't like how the light reflects. Yep, there's the cartridge, Pez, cereal. What's this thing here? a VHS tape in its VHS box, and they have just been crushed by all the merchandise. And the dialogue down here, Grunge is like, so give it up. What happened to you guys? And the turtles say, things were chugging along real nice there for a while, you know. Then suddenly we got 86'd by the Frenzy Beast and his Power Ranger peons. But at least we got to do three movies. All we want to do now is just be comic book heroes again, like back in the old days. This was in the 90s. They're saying this. Ooh, and look at this. This is promo ad for another turtle story by, look at that, by Simon Bisley and Kevin Eastman. Simon Bisley is another artist that you see a lot of in Heavy Metal Magazine. Looks like I'm going to have to hit eBay for that too. I love Simon Bisley. His art is kind of stressful too, but what can I say? I love it. So we have Gen 13 crossing over with the turtles. And then on the next page, we see the rat creatures roasting Bone over a fire. Bone is amazing. So Bone joins the story. Let me tell you about the Bones. Let's see here. I had the figures. I'm gonna have to dig them out. I thought they were here on the bookshelf with me. You see this massive thing? I ordered this when it first came out from Previews Magazine. This is number 1,819 of 2,000 editions, signed by Jeff Smith himself. And let me tell you something. I've never read this. I've read the single issue comics as it was coming out, and I read the graphic novels as they were condensed, not condensed, but, you know, combined into that book form. And when this came out, I thought, oh, I'll never have to worry about missing an issue or not seeing how it ends because I'll have it all in this one big giant thing. No, this is so huge. It's so unwieldy. It's so awkward to use. So it's really just a collector piece for me. I absolutely recommend anybody reading this. This is an all ages story. It has magic. It has dragons. It has comedy. It has terror. I mean, it has you on the edge of your seat. It's so good. Adults can read it. Children can read it. Teenagers can read it. Any age can read it. But don't get this. Don't try and look for this on eBay. This is not fun to read. It's too daggum big. I mean, look at this. You could brain somebody with this. Just get the soft trade paperback issues that you can find anywhere. And I recommend you do so. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful story. Love it so much. Yeah, good fantasy. So we have the Bones. We have the little bean creatures in the Bean World. I never actually read any Bean World comics, but this crossover, the thing I like about crossovers is they introduce you to other characters and other stories that you would never come across otherwise. And that was something that had always caught my eye. But I can never get my hands on any issues. It wasn't a title that we ordered at the store. So I never read any Bean World comics, but I just got the feeling from this part here that it's something that I would want to read and get into because it just seemed really fun and interesting. And I liked the art and I liked the dialogue. It was, you know, just goofy. Meow. All right, go out. Bye-bye. Here's another quick crossover that they have with, you have Savage Dragon, Wonder Woman, and the Hulk. There's a lot going on in this story. And I remember being just tormented by the way it ends. Continued in Gen 13, 13C with the introduction of Madman by Mike Allred. Madman. Let me tell you about Madman. Madman. I am mad for Madman. Where is he? I had it pulled aside, but I can't find it right now. There are comic books everywhere. Well, I will find it next time. Another cat wants to go out. Come on, get on out. Bye-bye. I only have 3, I promise. So Madman, it's a comic book, came out in the 90s, I'm going to say early mid-90s, and it's by Mike and Laura Allred. They're a husband and wife comic book team, living the dream, and the story and the art is just fantastic. It's really funny. I wouldn't say it's an all ages story, just because there are some times where it gets kind of gross or it gets kind of saucy. I wouldn't give it to children. I would give it to teenagers. Teenagers can read it, but not for kids. It would be, I think some parts would be a little too upsetting for them. I know it would have upset me. It upset me when I saw it at 19, but I'm very sensitive to gory stuff. So anyway, not for kids, but teenagers and up, it's fine. And they should. It's a really great story. Whew, all the crossovers that Madman is in. I mean, the list goes on and on. And Mike Allred himself does several different stories for several different things. He did a David Bowie thing. I want to say he did stuff for Archie comics for a little while. So many things. It's hard to keep up. But definitely would check out some Madman when you get a chance. Another thing I wanted to share with the Kevin Eastman heavy metal thing. So like that Frank Miller book, Heavy Metal Magazine were magazines that I really wanted to look through because the covers were so interesting to me. And it's a good thing that I didn't, because they're definitely for adults. Let's see what we got here. So I printed out a little thing that I wanted to share because there was a lot going on with Heavy Metal Magazine and I just couldn't remember all of it to try and tell you about. Let's see. So it's an American sci-fi and fantasy comics magazine. Publishing began in 1977 and it was primarily known for its blend of dark fantasy, sci-fi, erotica, and steampunk comics. As cartoonist / publisher Kevin Eastman saw it, heavy metal published European art which had not been previously seen in the US, as well as demonstrating an underground comics with an X, sensibility that nonetheless wasn't as harsh or extreme as some of the underground comics, but definitely intended for an older readership. So what he's basically saying is he liked these because it still had the adult themes to it, but not in such a severe, harsh way that would turn off its readers. More like turn on its readers. So in the mid-70s, while publisher Leonard Mogul was in Paris to jumpstart the French edition of National Lampoon, he discovered Métal Hurlant, which translates literally as howling metal. And then it got brought over to the US April of 77 as a glossy full-color monthly. Since the color pages had already been shot in France, the budget to reproduce them in the US was greatly reduced. Lucky for them. Kevin Eastman, who was the co-creator of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, had grown up reading heavy metal and then took over publication of the magazine with volume 17 in May 1992 under the name Metal Mammoth Inc. Like I said, a lot going on with heavy metal. There's more, but it's dull, so we'll skip it. But just to give you an idea of what this stuff looks like. So this is from September 1984, and it's the Heavy Metal's 1984 Music Video Award winners. This was a lot of fun to read. And this has one of those, not all of them have this, but some of them do this thing where they wrap around the front and back. Inside, director David Cronenberg rises from the dead zone. We just talked about Cronenberg the other night with some friends. Not going to go through the art in there because it's pretty graphic. And I'm going to keep that separate. This is winter 1987, exclusive, Cyberpunks Reinvent Science Fiction. And here is an example of one that did not have the wrap cover, but nonetheless still looks cool. Western film noir in color. here's that. How cool is that? I guess I can show you some of it. Not all of it's super saucy. Like that. Here's one example of a comic book in here. The cats want to come back in again. What a surprise. Man, you guys really want to come in. I know if I let you in, you're going to go right back out. Oh my goodness. Come on, you guys. What are you doing? Wow. This is an Olivia cover. I thought this was a rap cover, but it isn't. Made me really sad, but that's Olivia. She's still kicking and still making art. She's amazing. Olivia. I can't remember her last name. It's long. It's really long. This is a Boris Vallejo cover. This is April 1984. I thought at first this was a Julie Bell cover. Boris Vallejo and Julie Bell, if I remember correctly, are actually a married couple, and they do very similar art. And this has a B-movie master Roger Corman interview in it. Ooh. I actually read it, and it was quite delightful. This is a subscription card. Could it be a newsstand that hasn't sold out of heavy metal? Then you can fill out your information and get them mailed to your home. Photograph by Diane Radler. Reminds me of John B. the Genie. John Paragon just had a birthday not too long ago. How cool is that? Let's see what this table of contents says. Got the Dozier, Tex Arcana, which is a comic. It looks like it's just a list of all the different comics that are in this issue. Front cover, Boris Vallejo. Back cover, Michael Kanarek. Not a fan. Michael Kanarek's cover. Here's if you want to order your heavy metal merch, because everything always has to have merch, doesn't it? I actually wouldn't mind a heavy metal t-shirt. Ooh. Is this who I think it is? Yeah, this is Mobius. Mobius. Look at this guy. Look at this art. This is what I come here for. The detail is insane. It's so beautiful. Look at that. It's so good. I don't even care what it says. I just want to look at it. Ah. Let's find a real juicy page. Kiki's, be good. Oh, God, it's so good. It's so good. What is this? This is... Oh, that's cool. This is a little mini comic. Oh, wow. All right, I'm gonna have to put this down. Let me show you guys something really cool. So these were little one-page comics called I'm Age. And as you can see here, that says 1984, Jeffrey Jones. This was before they transitioned to Catherine Jones. Jeffrey, Catherine Jones, my God, their art, amazing. Oh, I wish I had more of it to show you. I mean, seriously, like, Frazetta, like, bowed to Catherine Jones. Like, that's how good their art was. I know that you're looking at this and you're like, what are you talking about? There's not much to it. Trust me. This is just this quick one-page thing they did, because that's all it is, just one page. That's it. There's nothing else. But if you look up Catherine Jones, Jeffrey Jones, and look up their art, you'll see why Frank Frazetta took his hat off to them. This is another fun little comic. The art is very bold. Very pop art. That looks really cool. I like that a lot. Let's see, I'm trying really hard not to bend the pages. And I like that a lot. I really like this a lot. And then this is the start of another comic by Philippe Droulet, adapted from Gustave Flambert's Salambo. Interesting. So this is an adaptation. Come here, page. Look at that detail. Can you imagine drawing that? That's a lot. That's a lot of work. This is what we call a splash page because it takes up 2 whole pages. Good splash page art there. Look at that detail. I mean, that's incredible. I don't know about you guys, but I see this kind of stuff and it just sets me on fire. I love it. I love it. Look at that. How cool is that? That's amazing. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? I love it. I have a whole stack of these. And if you want, we can go through all of them. Ah, look at that. This is the interview with Roger Corman, King of B Movies. King of the Bees. Got some Vincent Price action going on here. Can't beat that. The Day the World Ended, 1956. Not of This Earth with Beverly Garland. Boxcar Bertha, 1972 with David Carradine and Barbara Hershey. Look at young David Carradine. How wild is that? Richard Corbin. I did The Raven in 1962. Let's see. I did The Raven in 62 or 63. Made a movie called The Terror with Jack Nicholson using the same sets. And with Francis Ford Coppola as associate producer. Tales of Terror. The Man with the X-Ray Eyes with Don Rickles and Ray Milland. I was just reading about Don Rickles today. Don Rickles was an interesting dude, let me tell you. He did lots and lots of stuff. So much fun. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end this here. Just wanted to kind of do a little dot connecting with different titles, different characters, different stories. I am going to find that Madman book, and when I get those other Gen 13 issues in the mail, we'll go over those too because they're a lot of fun. And there's another crossover in particular I want to share with you guys, and I'm not going to talk about yet because it's going to lead to a whole other thing that I want to share by somebody named Sam Keith. So that's a little hint. Some of you will probably already know exactly what I'm talking about. Others will have no idea. But yes, that's going to take an entire video all to itself. Huge world. But yeah, that's it. So thank you for hanging in there with me. I know it's been a while since I made another video. There's been a lot going on. And we're still here. So I'm going to keep on going. Hope you keep going with me. And I'll see you again soon. Thanks. Bye.